Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's get going. We still have people kind of streaming in here. Good morning to everybody. I just got the YouTube stream up, so if you like to watch that, go ahead and click on that, and it should be available to you. Remember, you can kind of figure out your preferred method for combining these, or however you want to watch these and get them going. I did see a few people. Let's see. I don't want to show them on, because then give away people's privacy or whatever. But I did see there was a few emails. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. I'll do that after class once I'm done like answering people's questions and stuff. Then I'll go through those emails and then I'll respond to those. So even if you sent me an email, if you just would prefer to ask me after class, you can do that as well. So I haven't even had a chance to see which class was emailing me. It didn't look like anything was like an emergency. So yeah, that's where we're at. Feel free to do that, and I'll continue discussing today more about how the class is going to work and going through that kind of material. And then if anyone has questions or concerns, bring them up. So if you tried to sign up for the homework and it didn't work, or something didn't work quite right, so excuse me, what we're using this semester is a new system. I've been using another book and another homework. It was still my stat lab, but it was different than what I'm using now. I used that for a few years because it was kind of the best at the time. One of my colleagues came up with, they found a new book and a better system, especially for online courses. This thing we're doing now is going to be so much better. And the old thing was pretty good for online learning, but this setup is really quite a bit better, and I think really suited to students. In fact, I'm still going to use it when we go on ground. We've been told that in the spring, all faculty are expected to have at least 50% of their courses on ground. So that would mean traditional type setting classrooms. So we're actually supposed to pick classes this week. And that's the mandate, is we've been told that at least 50% of our schedules are to be on campus. So just kind of a heads up for you as students, you can kind of expect that. That would mean that overall at least 50% of the courses on campus will be on ground, and probably more like 60 to 70% of classes are going to be on ground, because there's certain departments like paramedics. You can't have remote learning on paramedics where you're supposed to be there actually like working on the CPR dummies and stuff like that. Also nursing, a lot of nursing classes have to be done in person. So just to kind of give you a heads up of where we're going to be in the spring, at least for now, right? Things can change, especially if the Delta variant and this new Lambda variant spread like unfortunately they are. Those decisions could change, but at the moment it looks like probably 2 out of 3 classes at least are going to be on ground in the spring. So you might want to get ready for that. Also, I don't know if every student has seen this. The school board did pass a vaccination mandate, which says that as of October 15th, if you're coming on campus, if you're an employee of the school or you're a student or anything like that, you have to have a vaccine to be on campus. If that's a surprise to you and it's a concern to you, then check your email. You should have got an email about the mandate for the district. It was the board, so it includes all the schools in the district: Ventura, Moore Park, and Oxnard, all 3 of them. So just be aware of that. That takes place October 15th, and some of you might have on-ground classes now. Just be aware of that mandate so that you can make, you can be prepared and then not have any kind of interruption in your schedule. So it's because they are actually going to go through and do this kind of stuff. So just be prepared for that. That won't affect us in this class, but it may affect your other classes, and it may affect your decisions for next semester as far as what classes you're signing up for. So you'll just information, right? Information is king. You want to always have information so that you can make good decisions for yourself. Let me plug my iPad in so we don't lose the Zoom meeting here. Right, so those were a couple things I wanted to mention. Are there any questions so far? I'm going to continue discussing like how the homework's going to work and how you should be progressing through Canvas. But were there any questions that came up? Were there any difficulties where someone was having trouble getting started in the class? Or are we good? I'm not seeing any issues. Okay, feel free to throw them into chat if something was bothering you. Oh, that's a thumbs up, so we're good. Okay, yep. So again, this, especially in an online course, like in any course, if you're beginning to feel nervous or difficulties or anything like that, the sooner you contact the professor, the more likely we are to be able to give you some help to get you back on track. The longer, and I know it's that nervousness. Some people are intimidated of talking to the teacher, or they feel like if they ask for help, that means they're not smart or something like that. Just forget about all that. It's just nonsense. It's just sort of you beating yourself up. If you feel like you're starting to get behind or you're getting anxiety or anything about this course, talk to your professor, whether that's me or in other classes, your other professors. The sooner you come talk to us, the more likely I can sit down with you and we can discuss, well, what's your study process? Oh, maybe if you make these few changes, it's gonna make a difference for you, or different things that I see hundreds of students a year, and I've been doing this for 12 years. I've seen thousands of students. I know pretty well what works effectively to study in a math class and what doesn't, that kind of stuff. So please see me if you're having difficulties. We would definitely like to see high pass rates, in this class, but we still have to pass people by the numbers, if you earned a pass rate, but we would like to see lots of you passing. You would like to see lots of you passing. So it works out for everyone. So we're on the same team here. We're working together. We have the same goal. Your goal is to pass. My goal is for you to pass. So let's work together on that and be a team. Okay. Where am I? Right, got that. Talked about that. Okay, so the way you want to work through, the way you want to get started with stuff, I forget exactly where we left off. Let's see. I think we talked about most of the stuff. Oh, and if the visuals I'm showing, remember the way this works. If you're on Zoom, you're not going to see the visuals behind me. If you are on YouTube, you will see the visuals behind me. Sometimes my window behind me gets moved over. So if you ever can't see what I'm showing you, just, put a polite comment over in the comments, and then I'll notice, oh, I need to move my background. Because sometimes I'm looking at Zoom and I don't see the background behind me isn't lined up. So feel free to just politely let me know that I need to make an adjustment there, and I'll see what I can do. Okay. So we talked about the homework. Some homework will be in Canvas. Most of it will be in the My Stat Lab. You've got a project going on that you should be working on. You are, you're not working on it yet, but you'll be working on it here. We'll get started in the next couple of weeks. You will work together in groups to help each other out, but you will each turn in your own version of the project, right? That's because that way the work is not getting divided. In the past, sometimes people go, okay, you're in charge of hypothesis testing. You're going to do the visuals. I'm going to do this part. And what happens is no one actually learns all the material. They just learn their part of the material. So unfortunately, it's going to be 3 times as many videos for me to watch, but that's okay, because then I know that everyone is doing the full part of the project. But you'll have someone to talk to. Really, when I put you together in groups, and there'll be an upcoming discussion in Canvas where you're going to form your groups, because so here's what you want to be thinking about in the early days of this course as far as the project, right? You should be pretty quick here. You'll start the homework and you should be progressing through the homework, but you should be thinking in the back of your head about forming a group. And like I say, I'll put a discussion board up that will help you kind of meet other people in the class, and then you can decide if you like someone's post. You go, oh, I want to work with this person, and then you can form a group with them, however you want to do it. The people in the group will decide on some questions that you're going to ask in a survey. Now, we have to learn about those kind of questions first, right? There's categorical type data, there's quantitative data, there's some other considerations for types of questions that you ask, and it really makes a big difference. You want to ask good questions up front, because, like I make a recommendation when your group is picking your topic and your questions. I say you should have at least a couple categorical questions. You should have at least a couple quantitative questions. Some groups end up not doing that, either because they don't understand what a quantitative question is, or because they just decide they don't want to do that. But then down the road, when we get to correlation and we get to a scatter plot with your correlation line through it, all of a sudden those groups can't do that because they don't have 2 quantitative data sets in order to make the scatter plot. right? Now they're missing part from their they're missing part of that from their presentation. And when I'm grading it, I'm going to go, why did they never discuss correlation? Why did they never discuss a least squares fit, and whether there was a correlation, a strong correlation or a weak correlation or no why did they completely skip that topic? And it's going to hurt your score a little bit. So basically everything you do in this course you should address if it's relevant, and I would say maybe 70% of the material is probably going to be relevant to your project. You should think about including it, because when I'm grading it, those are the questions that come up. Wow, they didn't do any hypothesis testing for their whole project. I wonder why not. And then, points are going to get docked there. So you want to make sure from the very start, you have to do a good job at the beginning, because if you ask poor questions, you can't really make up for it later, right? You can't, because what's basically going to happen is you're all going to you're going to get in your groups. Groups can be 1, 2, or 3 people. I'm fine with that. They cannot be 4 or above. Things start to sort of go off the tracks at that point. Some people really want to work by themselves. You can do that, but just realize it's going to be significantly more difficult, right? I do see students that do it successfully. Those are kind of the, what I would call the superstar students. They've probably seen some statistics before. They really are throwing themselves into the class, and they really get everything we're talking about. A person like that might be able to, I've seen, it's rare, but occasionally a student will do a really good job doing that on their own. More than likely, you want to be in a group of 2 or 3 people. That's because when you get stuck and you're like, wait, I do not get how I'm supposed to do a hypothesis test on our questions, you can ask someone else in the group, because they're working on it for their project and they can explain it to you. I'm not saying they'll do the work for you. I'm saying they can explain it to you, right? You shouldn't be doing the work for other people, but in your group, but you should be helping them learn and explain to them, I see your question. Yeah, that's a really good question. It took me a while to figure this out. Here's how I applied hypothesis testing to this question, and then you're showing that other person how to do it. Okay, and of course you can come to me if you have questions as well, but I'm probably first going to ask if you addressed it in your group, because the group discussions, you'll actually learn a lot from the group discussions. You'll have done the homework. You're like, yeah, I think I'm ready to start on the project. But when your group is sitting there discussing how to do hypothesis testing on your questions, you're going to be surprised when you leave those conversations how much you learned from when you sat down in the first place. So while the student point of view you may think of these groups as, we're getting together so that I can get all the points I need on my project. It's not just that. It's also, I just learned a lot from talking to the people in my group about my project. That's what we're going for, right? Because this class is about learning. I know it's easy to get in that mindset as a student to think that college is all about points and grades and GPA, and really that's secondary, right? What college is supposed to be about is learning, right? People forget that. I hear teachers forget that, and definitely students can forget that, and it's understandable, right? The way you are judged is by your points and your grades and your GPA. And so it's easy to think that's actually the goal of college, is points and grades and GPA. If you do the work of learning, the points and grades and GPA will just happen automatically, right? If you do the learning. But sometimes people try to skip the learning and go right to the points and grades and GPA, and it does not work. It does not work well. And it's not going to suit you well if you're in a career that has expected you to learn statistics and you don't know statistics. It's going to be an uncomfortable work, right? When you're expected, hey, can you go crunch some numbers on this data? And you're like, I didn't really do much in that class. I don't know how to do this. That's going to be a problem, right? So just focus on the learning part. The grade will come, right? This is a class when I see at the end of the semester, when I see, this person did almost all the homework, they just did an outstanding presentation to me, it's very easy to hand out an A. Yep, I can totally justify giving this person an A because they get a great presentation. They did, nearly all of the homework. Boom, A, right? And that's great, because then I feel like, good, I taught someone who really did a good job here, and that's good. Okay, we have a question here. How are we meeting with our group members? Is it through Zoom? Yeah, that's a great question, Tatum. It's totally up to your group. Your group can decide. I give you a lot of freedom in the project. I give you freedom in how you record the project. I give you freedom in how you meet together with people. So if you guys want to meet together in Zoom, I actually think that's a great way to do it. Some people are using other apps to meet. Whatever works for you, whatever works for your group, whatever you're comfortable with, and you think the way is best for you to work with a group, do that. I think that's great. So, as long as the statistics content is in the project, I give you a lot of leeway as far as like the video making and the, how your group is going to work together. I give you freedom to do that in the way that you think is best for you, right? Because this is what you'll be doing in the future when you work in groups, when you work on projects. Your group is going to figure out what works for that group. And then, you might one time meet with people in your work and you work on a project and you do it one way, and then the next year it's a different group that you have to work with and they do it differently. And that's how it works in life. And honestly, the reality of this world is that, whatever app is the big thing this year is probably not going to be the big thing 5 years from now. It's always changing. So, I think a lot of you probably know this, especially if you're older than an average student like myself. You can see things are just constantly changing, right? Even just, since the internet kind of blew up, even just things like short videos, right? Things like TikTok. Like TikTok was not the first app that ever did that, right? You can go back and there was a whole history of short video apps. They were 20 seconds and 15 seconds and 12 seconds and 6 seconds and 8 seconds. And it's just whatever app happens to be the big thing at that time is what people use. So I'm not going to be too specific about which app you use, because honestly, 3-4 years from now, you're going to be picking a different app to use when you need a collaboration type tool. So pick what works for you. As far as actually making the video, I leave it up to you. Some of you are probably amateur movie makers, and you can put together amazing visuals. You might have you have your subscription to all the After Effects and Premiere Pro and all that kind of stuff, or Final Cut. Some of you might be taking classes for video making. You probably put together something that looks really well produced. You're welcome to do that. I'm mostly going to be grading on the content. So that is, I have some students where the video they make at the end of the semester, I've seen things where literally someone will print out the pages, they record it with their phone, and then they narrate it while they're talking about it, and it gets recorded on a video on their phone. That's fine. I'm not going to grade you because, your production quality isn't, ready to be a movie trailer showing on Amazon or something like that. I'm more concerned about the content. So what some people do is they make a PowerPoint. So I see some videos where people do, like I just mentioned, they have the pages printed out, they record it with their phone, or they get some kind of stand or something, or they hold it, and then they narrate what they want to say while they're showing the pages. That's perfectly fine. What some people do is they make like a PowerPoint or a Google Slides presentation, and then they use a screen recorder to record the screen, and then they give a narration over the top of that where they talk about it. That's perfectly acceptable, right? Again, another kind of like low production way of making a video, but it's perfectly acceptable for what they're doing. When I'm grading it, I'm not going to grade you that, as long as I can see what you're talking about, as long as you've communicated it to me, I can hear what you're saying, I can see what you're showing. I'm not going to be too hung up on the production quality. If I can see it, it's good. If you're someone who likes to make your movies really slick and good at transitions and stuff like that, great, go for it. It's good practice for you in your movie making, but it's not necessary, right? So I give you freedom in which apps you want to use for that. In fact, one of the discussions that you'll have during the semester is addressing what apps are you going to use, because there are some free apps out there that'll help you record screens. There are some paid apps. Most of you have a phone that can record, so you can go through and do that. So I give you a lot of freedom as long as when I see your video at the end of the semester, it covers the content that needs to be covered. And I do want to make this really clear, because I think I have some students who in desperation just try to turn something in. It has to be a video that you're turning in, at least 10 minutes, but probably recommended at least like 14 minutes if you're shooting for a good grade. You can't just turn in a PowerPoint, right? You might say, well, wait a minute, you just talked about PowerPoint a minute ago. What I'm saying is some students use a PowerPoint on their screen as their visuals, so they put their pie charts or histograms or whatever in their hypothesis testing and their scatter plots. They put those in a Google Sheets or Google Slides, and then they record it and make a video from it. You can't turn in a Google Sheets presentation to me. What you can turn in is a video of you narrating your Google Sheets presentation. Okay, so it's a little bit subtle there, but I want to make sure everyone understands, because if you don't turn in a video, you get a 0. Okay, and if that's panicking everyone, again, you can just use your phone to make the video. So as we move along, this is another reason to be in a group of people rather than doing this by yourself. Be in a group of people because the chances are someone in your group has already figured out a reasonable way to do the recording, and they could say, oh, let me show you that you want to use this. You want to use your phone along with this free app. And maybe someone in the group lets you borrow a microphone if you don't have one or something, so that, like your phone has a microphone, obviously, but, you can help each other out. I highly recommend you do not try to do the project by yourself. But you can. In fact, I kind of think the perfect number is 3, honestly, because once we go past 3, then people start being able to disengage and just sort of like absorb the work of their partners, which is not the point of the presentation. The problem the other way is that if you're in a group of 2, if the person in your group drops the course, which will lose people, we're going to probably lose at least 5 people over the course of the semester. Well, at least 3, I'd say. Reasonable chance we might lose 5 just because that happens. People get sick. People have family emergencies, people have medical emergencies, and they have to drop the class. If you're in a group of 2 and the other person drops the course, you're now all alone. So personally, I would recommend that you get in a group of 3 people. That kind of, to me, I think that's the magic number, because if you're in a group of 3 people and one person has to drop, you're not alone, right? You still have someone else. If for some reason as we move through the semester, if a group dissolves because people leave or you don't get along or whatever, see me and I can probably try to form another group for you. Or usually there's a group that's willing to take someone on, right? And there'll probably be a group of 2 out there that says, oh yeah, we can let someone come in. And then there's little details that need to be taken care of at that point, but shouldn't be too, don't be afraid to speak up. Because I know the project is 50% of the grade, and I've seen students when all of a sudden their partner just ghosts them, doesn't seem to exist, doesn't show up to class, doesn't respond to emails or texts anymore. That can be really scary as a student, because you're like, I have to do this big project. Now I'm all alone, and you kind of go into panic mode. Talk to me, and I'll see if there's a group that's willing to take you on, and there probably is. There's probably a group or someone else who got ghosted by their partner, and they would, it's very comforting if you can get in a group and you can at least kind of work together and help each other out, okay? So don't be afraid to contact me about that. I don't think I mentioned these important dates last time. So drop dates, right? I don't remember. I did all these class introductions this week. I can't remember exactly what I said to some people. So if I repeat myself, it's even sometimes when I do repeat myself, sometimes people don't get it till the second time. So, and you'll hear this throughout the course, I sometimes repeat myself because, there's times where even like the 3rd, 4th time I say something in class, a student will still go, oh, why didn't you tell us that? I did, but it's understandable. When someone's just throwing information at you for an hour, you're not going to retain 100% of it, right? That goes for us faculty when we're in meetings and they just are dumping information on us for a while. You're going to miss a thing here and there. So don't feel bad about that. And I may repeat myself a bit. So behavior, most of you are, mature enough to understand what's appropriate school behavior, what's not. Keep in mind, anything we do, whether it's online, whether it's a comment that you put in the YouTube stream, or it's a thing you say to someone in Zoom or whatever, these all fall under the school policies of proper behavior. right? So just like if you were in the classroom and you said something to someone that might cause the school, either me as a teacher or the school itself, to react in some way, it's the same thing here in Zoom and on the YouTube stream. If you're making someone feel intimidated or scared or some kind of inappropriate comment regarding race or gender or anything like that, it's just like if you were saying it to them in the classroom. So keep that in mind. The goal here is for everyone to finish successfully, right? And we probably won't meet that goal, but I would like as many of you as possible to be successful. That's our goal when we get together. We're not, this isn't about people having different political views and stuff like that. This is just about us all working together for the common goal of people passing the course. So keep that in mind. We all should be working together to help each other reach that finish line successfully. Okay, that's what we're really about. And this is almost never an issue. Most people come to Ventura College knowing how to behave appropriately in a classroom, but there are occasionally, every couple of years, you'll end up with a student who doesn't quite understand those boundaries or has a different opinion about where those boundaries are, and then we have to step in and make some adjustments to behavior, because it's really important that everyone feels safe in here. People feel safe to ask questions. People feel safe to come to me for help. You need to be comfortable in this classroom or you're not going to learn. So keep that in mind. That's our common goal, is getting through statistics. Some important dates. So as a student, it's really important that you know when the drop dates are, right? Sometimes students think that getting through college is about being smart, and I would actually disagree. I think being smart, whatever it means to say that someone is smart, I'm not even really sure what that means. But whatever it means to be smart is really not the driving goal to being successful as a student. Being successful as a student involves you working hard in the classroom. I've seen many students that have backgrounds that didn't really, they were sort of in a place where they were very challenged at the beginning of a course, and they work hard enough, and by the end of the semester, they're one of the best students in the classroom, right? So it's really about being able to put in the hard work. That's a very important thing as a student. Also, being aware of the decisions you have to make as a student and making good ones. So one of those is the schedule that you pick, right? Every semester I see students they try to take on the whole world, and we advise them, you probably shouldn't take this schedule this semester. And we hear the same statement every single time. I have no choice. I have to, right? I have no choice. I have to. I need to transfer in the fall. So I have to take, 23 units this semester over at 3 different colleges. I have no choice. I have to. And then what inevitably happens is that person ends up failing a bunch of those classes, and then they don't transfer in the fall anyways because they failed the classes they needed. Plus, you now have F's on your transcript. So as a student, you need to be strategic and aware of what's going to help you succeed, what's going to help you not fail, right? And this is coming from someone, I spent 4 years at a community college when I was going to college. So I know a little bit about it taking a while. Mainly the reason I spent 4 years there is I couldn't decide on a major. I started off a psychology major. That changed very quickly to a physics major, which ended up transforming into a math major. It took me 4 years to get to that point. So, but I know about spending more time at a community college than a person is comfortable with because I spent 4 years at one. So, it was a great experience, but it was just, most people don't want to spend 4 years at a community college. So you need to be strategic. Meet with a counselor. I think it was my other class I talked to about this. Meeting with a counselor can be very helppful, right? I've seen students come back to me and say, I met with my counselor and I'm now getting out of here a semester earlier. Okay, because the plan that you came up with for your own schedule for the next 2 years may not be the best schedule. You may make mistakes in there, and that's understandable because you're new. You're brand new at this. You don't have any background in putting together the schedule. You may misunderstand something that your university wants you to do, and you take the wrong, you might take the wrong philosophy class, and then all of a sudden, I can't transfer now because I took the wrong one. Meet with a counselor. It's free. They'll sit down with you, and they'll figure out really great stuff for you. I've had students come back in the middle of the semester and say, I just came from my counselor's office and they say, I don't even need this math class. And then they drop the math class. So I highly recommend, it is probably worth your time to meet with a counselor. They oftentimes save people like 1 or 2 semesters of being here, which is obviously great for you as the student. You can move on to that next stage of your education, right? Another one of the strategic things as a student is knowing when the drop dates are. Okay, so remember I think I talked in here about census. Make sure that you're progressing in this course, because in a couple weeks, if you haven't done a sufficient amount of work in this class, I'm obligated by my contract to drop you from the class. It's not that I'm being a big meanie. It's that this is what my deans and my VPs expect me to drop students who haven't done sufficient work in the class. So make sure you're doing that. That census date is right around this September 6th. That's the W drop date. If you're in this class after that date, you get a W if you withdraw, right? W is for withdraw. So if you go drop the class today, it'll be like you never took it. It won't be on your schedule at all. It won't even be in there. Okay. So, and double check those dates. I think I've got them right, but you should double check them just to make sure I'm right. They should be in your portal. It should show you those dates for the class information. So after September 6th, you either get a letter grade in this course or a W for a withdraw. After November 19th, you can't get a W anymore. You get a letter grade. So what happens every semester is I have a handful of students come to me after this date and say, hey, can you talk to me about whether I should drop or not? And then my response is, well, the drop date has passed, so you can't drop. You're in the class. You're getting a letter grade. For a lot of students, that's okay, because a lot of times students are kind of nervous. They're like they might have a 71% in the class, and they come talk to me, and I say, well, you're passing, so if you just finish strong, hopefully you'll pass the class, and you won't have to do all this work over again. But some students come in and, they got a 60% in the class, and we kind of agree, yeah, looks like you're probably going to have a hard time finishing. It's kind of, we have that discussion. I can advise you a little bit, but it has to be before November 19th or, again, double check that date to make sure it's right. But you want to know when those dates are, because afterwards the decision is made for you, right? If you think about dropping after November 19th, well, it's too late. You're in the class. But before that, you can decide. And I'm not suggesting that any of you drop the class, but if it's the early November and you're realizing, let's see, I took chemistry, I'm taking a 5-unit English class, I'm taking a 4-unit statistics class, my chemistry has a lab that's really difficult, I work 20 hours a week, I have kids, and you just realize it's too much and you're probably going to fail one of those classes, it may be in your best interest to drop it. Now, this is another area where you might want to meet with a counselor, because different programs down the road consider W's to be not great, right? It's almost always better to get a W than an F. So if you're on track to fail, probably try to take the W, but it depends. It's up to you. Certain financial aid does care about the difference between a W and an F. And I don't know those. Like, I was getting questions the other day about, what about this type of financial aid? I don't know. That's not my area of expertise, but the counselors can likely advise you, oh yes, the vet, I think it's the veterans financial aid is usually a little stricter about stuff than other financial aids. And then sometimes you might end up having to pay some of that money back. So just basically find out about that before those dates, and then you can make the informed decision for yourself. My recommendation is meet with a counselor. They can definitely help you figure those things out. Okay? So those are important dates that you need to know about. Oh, one thing I want to give you an update on. So there was a discussion last time, or there was questions about the codes for the bookstore. There's all these hoops to jump through. It always sounds better than it is, right? Sounds like, oh, free codes, the bookstore is getting out. In the past, it's not gone smoothly at all. It's actually been extremely difficult. I contacted the bookstore to see about making sure they have the right information. I have not heard back from them, and I'll probably try to get back to them today, because that was a couple days ago. So I'll try to check in with the bookstore again and see if I can get some kind of information about that. I had hoped to be able to give you an update today as far as what was going on with that, but as of yet, I don't have it. But either way, remember, you can sign up with the 14-day free online trial so you can still be progressing in the class. And then I really hope by, Tuesday, that I will be able to tell you what's up with those codes, okay? Or you can contact the bookstore directly. Maybe I haven't heard yet from either students who got it to work or from the bookstore that they've got it figured out. There's what's going on. One of the confusions is it's getting really difficult with ISBN numbers, because you would kind of think the way it works is, okay, we're using this book and I want the current edition of this book with the online homework. Here's the ISBN number. The problem is they make like a bunch of different versions of that. There's like 12 week and 18 week and this, and there's like added in notes, and like there's like a dozen different versions. And if you don't get the ISBN numbers just perfectly right, then what will happen is the code you buy won't allow you to access the class that I'm presenting. So the ISBN numbers were not matching up, so I inquired with the bookstore to say, please help me figure out what's the right ISBN number here, and I haven't heard back yet. So hopefully we can get that fixed today or tomorrow, and then hopefully I'll have some news for you on Tuesday about those codes. But please don't wait. Please don't wait. Please make sure that you're starting with the free trial. At least get the free trial going so that you're moving through the class. There's a question here. Are the due dates accurate in Canvas for homework? Some of them should be. The early ones should be. I have to go through and see what I've updated. But I think for the first chapter, let's see, you're saying in Canvas for homework or... yeah, let's jump over to that so I can kind of tell you how to progress through things. Let's see. Let's close this down. So let's see if we go into, so you go to the modules. Remember, when you're actually doing the homework, you should be doing it through Canvas. I know it's confusing, but this is the sort of the best setup for this system. And I think I got sidetracked earlier. This is the first time I've set this up. Over the summer, my colleague that had this new system that I think is superior to what I was using before, walked me through it and set it up with me. This is my first time setting it up myself. So if something isn't working right, please let me know and I will look into it. Okay, I think I've got it all working right, but it's always hard to tell because as teacher, it lets me basically do anything that I want. So if there's a certain thing that's not right from the student view, a lot of times I don't see that because as a teacher, it lets me view anything. So if something isn't working, send me an email or, message me through Canvas, and then I'll try to look at that because I want students to be able to go through. So the way you should do this, so let's see okay, so yep, I don't have chapter 2. Oh, these are not up. These dates are not right. So the dates for the actual homework are correct. So what you should do once you've worked through the early modules and you kind of get how the class is going to work, you've looked at this part, how to upgrade. What is this? Get my lab access, free access for 14 days. Once you've done that, or you've just paid for it, so you have your homework set up, and you've decided whether you want to do the optional notebooks. If you want to skip the guided notebooks, be my guest. Some students find it very helpful. Going through, we'll be dealing with StatCrunch a little bit later. You're going to love StatCrunch. It's 20 years ago, you would have had to do so much number crunching to find standard deviations and all this kind of stuff. Now StatCrunch is going to do it for you. Again, the most important thing for you to learn in a stats class is interpreting the data, conclusions. It's kind of the stuff people don't want to do. People want to memorize how to crunch some numbers and then do the same thing on a test. What you need to do in this class is think about interpreting and understanding the number crunching that StatCrunch is doing for you. So understand what it means when it gives you a result from a hypothesis test. What does that mean? Does that mean that your hypothesis does it support it? Does it not support it? And we'll get into all that kind of stuff as the semester progresses, okay? Work through this one. Here's one that's, this resources. This is one where you can kind of pick and choose a little bit more, which if one of these sounds right, where you're like, I'm having trouble with the vocabulary, well, there's a vocabulary page in here, right? So the resources you can pick and choose. Then you get to chapter 1, data collection. these dates right here, August 30th, those are correct, right? I'm giving a little bit more leeway for the first chapter because I know some people it's going to take them a week to get started with the homework, or some people even 2 weeks. People are figuring out if this is the right class for them. People are kind of settling in. You're probably still figuring out your other classes and how they're going to work. So I give a little bit of extra time for this first chapter. But these homework assignments and the lessons are due August 30th. So just make sure you're getting them done by then. You probably want to get them done earlier. I mean, that's well over a week away. So my recommendation would be, many of you could probably get this chapter completed in the next few days, and then you're ahead of the game. I'll start releasing the subsequent chapters. So those of you who want to work ahead and maybe like complete the course sooner, be my guest, right? You're welcome to do that. I won't grade your project for the final any earlier, but you can get most of your work done. For some people, that's desirable, where they go, I've got some free time now. I'm going to move myself ahead in the statistics class. And then what happens is the last month of school, you might be done with all your statistics work because you've done it all, right? You've completed it, and now you can just focus on your other classes, because that last month of school for people is usually crunch time. That's where it gets really stressful, right? In here, you're going to have your project video due. In English, you might have a giant essay due that you've been, the whole class has been building up to your final essay that you're going to turn in the end, and you want that to be good. In your history class, maybe you have to write a big paper about the civil rights movement or whatever it is that you're studying, and that you're going to have a lot of things due at the end of the semester. So for some people, if they can go through this and learn the material and be 3-4 weeks ahead of schedule, that means that in that last month, you're not making your project video or doing stats homework because you've done it already, right? That's up to you. For some of you, that probably sounds scary. For some of you, not. Yeah, so it's being pointed out the lesson part is helpful for the homework. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, right? I can't expect you to do homework if you haven't had a lesson of some type, right? We only meet 2 hours a week. Most weeks, I'm going to cover a little bit of statistics. Like, we won't even cover any statistics this week. Most weeks, I'll cover some, but I can't cover it all in 2 hours a week. It's just not possible. So working through those lessons is like the substitute for us being in the classroom. It's relatively straightforward. You get points for doing the lesson, and then you go do the assessment, which is the homework. And there's videos in both of those. If you have questions, you can get a hold of me. But yeah, that's actually why I switched to this system, is because when my colleague showed me this, I went, oh, this is perfect for an online stats class. This is so much better than just trying to like piece together videos that cover stuff. In fact, I will in the future use this for my on-ground classes as well, but it's very good for an online course. So yeah, that's the recommendation, is that you would come in. So say you're on 1.3, you'd come in, you'd do the lesson, you'd work your way through that, and then after that, you go to the assessment, you work your way through that, and you're good to go. And then, next time you get some time, you move on to 1.4, and making sure that you're ahead of it. Yeah, making sure that you're ahead of the turn-in. And again, if you're this is a mindset a lot of students get. If you're turning things in right when they're due, you're kind of like behind, because it means that at the end of the semester, you're going to be doing a few chapters all at once to get them in on time. So try to work ahead of the game. And most of these assignments are set up, I think these should be set up, hopefully I did that right, where if you do them late, you still get partial credit, but it's like 50% credit. So obviously you don't want that, because 50% is an F, right? So, but if there's like 1 or 2 assignments for whatever reason, you had an emergency, you couldn't get them done on time, you can still finish them up and get some partial credit on those, which is still going to help your grade, okay? But it's usually better, rather than saying, you know what, I have a few more days, I'm just going to sit here and watch Seinfeld reruns or Friends reruns or whatever people watch now. I'm just going to sit here and sort of stare at the TV for a while. Just get that homework done today, and then you can relax a few days from now. You can relax, and then you have that work done, right? So try to stay ahead of the game. That's honestly one of the biggest things you can do for yourself as a student, is not say, oh, I'll do this 2 days from now. Just say, you know what? I have time tonight. I'll do it tonight. That I think is honestly the biggest difference that a student can make between being a successful student and a student who is unsuccessful. It's that right there. I'm just going to do it tonight. I have the time. The kids are in bed. It's quiet in my house. I'm just going to get this done now rather than waiting, because when you wait, then what happens? Then the homework's due tonight. I need to get home. And then on the way home, your car breaks down. Okay, so now you're delayed a few hours. And then you get home, you're extra tired, right? Or you get sick. Or, one thing that's been happening regularly, and it happened for me numerous times because of the neighborhood I live in, where they cut the power, right? So I'm supposed to go teach a class. Power's out for one time we lost power for 3 days or something, right? Well, my neighborhood is one where a bunch of the houses burn, so they cut our power sometimes when it gets really windy. Didn't have power for a few days, so I couldn't teach class. Well, students are in that same boat. If you're going to turn in an assignment at 11:59 and your power gets cut an hour before that, your assignment's now going to get half credit because you didn't turn it in on time, right? So honestly, to any of you who really want to be successful students, and I did pretty well when I went to school. I ended up with a PhD in math. One of the best things you can do is say, I'm just going to do this now. I'm not going to wait. I know I might be able to get away with waiting. I'll just do it now. And you're going to find that you're way less stressed than the other people in the classroom who are stressing about getting it done at the last minute. You're not stressed because you're like, oh yeah, I did it 2 days ago. Okay. So hopefully you're doing that, working through these assessments. I will fix these two things at the bottom of the module that say project. Whenever I have that, that's some type of an assignment. It generally is going to be worth points, and it's going to be something that it's work you're doing now that's going to help you later with your project. So later when you actually start to making your video, most of your work for your project will be done. It's going to be in these discussion boards that you've left, right? So this first one is to pick your groups. And then what your groups are going to do is you're going to come up with some survey questions. I'll talk more about this as we approach it, but you're going to form your survey questions. And that's harder than you think. You might think, "Oh, I could sit down right now and come up with some good survey questions." But one of the things you're going to learn in this chapter is that it's not as easy as you think. Statistics is one of those things that everyone thinks is really easy. When we listen to our politicians, when we listen to authority figures, they like to throw statistics at us. And most of the time what happens in these kind of situations when someone starts citing statistics is the people listening go, "Oh, I don't really understand this, so this person sounds smart. I guess I'm just going to trust what they're saying." But that actually gets used against you. People know this, right? I, as a statistics teacher, I know this. I know that there are conversations I can win just by throwing out a bunch of statistics if I was willing to be unethical and maybe present things incorrectly, right? This is usually people aren't outright lying. And you'll see this throughout the course when you see the mistakes that people can make, but sometimes people do this intentionally. There's a top-selling book called How to Lie with Statistics, right? I can take the statistics and I can misrepresent what those statistics really say. And I can say that they support my point of view when really once the statisticians look at the data, they go, yeah, you're misinterpreting. Your conclusion is a misinterpretation of what the data actually says. But if you don't know statistics, then you're just kind of left believing that person, right? And then people end up believing who they want to believe rather than looking at actual statistics and understanding. Like this happens to me all the time. On the radio, I'll hear a politician or somebody talking, and they talk about some statistics, and I go, you know what? That person just misrepresented that data. And sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just that politician doesn't even understand statistics. So they think they've grabbed some data that they think supports their claim, and you go, actually, this thing, if you look at it, is actually works against your proposition that you want to put up there. But they don't frame it that way. They frame it that it supports their thing that they're trying to do. You, as an informed statistician student, right, someone who's successfully completed statistics, can go, oh, I think maybe this person is trying to mislead me, right? That's one of the things we want to do. So part of that is creating a good survey question, right? We'll talk about this a little bit next time, but I can take the same question and I can word it in two different ways, and they will get very, very different results. Like in a way that it's eye-opening when you see And I'll give an example of how this was actually done in the last, 10 years or something in our country with the way some politics were done, where surveys were put. They would ask similar questions, but they would ask them in a different way, and you would get very, very different results. Same overall information, but now you've asked it in a way where if you have one point of view, you can cite one study. If you have another point of view, you can cite the other study, and they're all just being done, to sort of confuse the issue. So, picking those survey questions is harder than you think. So what you want to do, hopefully everyone in your group will have completed that work, and then you can come up with good questions, and I'll give you some guidance about that before we get there. It's important that you pick your survey questions in a timely manner because, and I know I'm running out of time here, but it's important that we get to those in a timely manner because the way you get your data is everyone in the class takes the survey. So we can't do that until we have everyone's questions, and then you'll have your data to move forward. So in the next few weeks, I'll change these due dates for the projects, and then I'll let you know in class. Probably on Tuesday we'll talk about it, and I'll let you know, and then we can move forward with that. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut off the YouTube stream. Anyone on YouTube who wants to talk to me or ask me a question, hop into Zoom. I'll answer all the questions that you want. Okay? Thanks, everybody, and I'm going to make a note that next time in stats, we're going to talk about the project groups and the project survey questions. See how I have there's really not much time for me to actually talk about like lecture statistics to you because there's all the administration of the class takes up a lot of our time. So make sure you're working through that stuff. Okay, I'm going to shut the stream down.